Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Mirna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling superfood smoothies or offering organic omega-3s, Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform got you covered. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Renee Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Eve Hall, host of the Please Me podcast. And Eve and I are going to be talking today of a very tantalizing topic, ladies. Orgasm equity, why women are not having as many orgasms as men. Hey, ladies, we need to be pleased too. And I love Eve's name of her podcast, Please Me. It's not all but the man. So I'm going to learn right along with you how to, experience a more pleasure and understand my body as far as sexual health. So welcome, Eve.
Thank you so much for having me, Myrna. This is very exciting.
Yes, very exciting. Yeah, very exciting. Love these kind of conversations. All right. So let me introduce Eve. Eve is a licensed physical therapist who specializes in sexual health and the pelvic floor. Eve has a podcast, as I mentioned, called Please Me, that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health. As a physical therapist, Eve treats conditions such as erectile dysfunction, increased vaginal sensitivity and dryness, incontinence, and other sexual health-related issues. On the podcast, she talks about the orgasm gap, sexual liberation, big clit energy, kinks, fetishes, lingerie, and much more. And I hope that we're going to get into some of those topics today. But if we don't, then you know what to do. Subscribe and listen to Eve every week as she delves deeper into these issues. All right. So I want to start off by understanding Eve's journey, because this is a very special niche. So Eve, as a licensed physical therapist, how did you transition to becoming a sexual health expert? Because those two don't naturally go together.
No. Well, as a physical therapist, there is a specialty that's the pelvic floor. And the pelvic floor therapists focus a lot on sexual health issues. And so that was sort of an easy transition. My interest is really more in sexual health because I really like to help people to really give that part of their life extra special treatment. And a lot of times when there's dysfunction, people often will wait and not focus on that part of their life and that part of their healing. They may get healing for other areas of their life. They'll go if they have a heart condition, or they'll go if they have high blood pressure, or whatever else. But when they have a sexual health condition, oftentimes they feel ashamed. And oftentimes they will come to me even when they're getting treatment and say, my partner or my wife or my husband doesn't know that I'm coming to see you. So I become a dirty little secret, right? And, I don't want to be anyone's dirty little secret. I think that these conversations should be destigmatized. We should be having conversations with our partner. We should be talking about these things so that if we do have issues, we can get those issues addressed. And I always say there's absolutely no shame in having a sexual health condition. So my journey was very interesting, and I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years. And believe it or not, my specialty for many years was pediatrics. And
that is funny.
I know. So I went from one extreme to the other, and that was a beautiful journey in and of itself. And it got me through, all of my marriage. And then when I got divorced, I moved to Florida. And when I moved to Florida, I went on my own personal sexual, adventure. Let's just put it that way, where I was sort of re-entering the dating world and really experimenting in my sexual space. And that brought me to, really focusing my practice around sexuality, because I realized how important it was in my life never to get to the place again where I would be in a relationship that was not focusing on sexuality, like my marriage sort of ended up. And I knew that was going to be very, very important to me in my relationships going forward. And so I found that, I had a lot more fun than I thought I would. And I thought that this was a very key space for people to really focus their attention on, because, if you do have sexual dysfunction, it can really cause depression, anxiety, and lots of other, things that would make your life not as happy as if you have a healthy sex life. So that was sort of my journey to sexual health.
Yeah, that's very good. I didn't have any questions here about the pelvic floor, but I'm going to mention it now because I had a doctor. I got my first child at 21, and I had a doctor that immediately started me on exercising my pelvic floor. And I will tell you that throughout my life, I have exercised my pelvic floor, and then I had a second child. And my pelvic floor is very strong because I never stopped. And I will tell you that, I'm in my 60s and I have pretty good sexual health. And I think it's all because of my pelvic floor. In fact, when I went through menopause, I didn't get any of those sexual dysfunction things because, again, I think it's my pelvic floor. So maybe we should maybe I should ask you about that, to talk on that. How does the pelvic floor, or having a strong pelvic floor, help with sexual health?
So just like any other part of your body, your muscles are what move your body, right? So your arm muscles move your arm up and down. Your vaginal muscles are super important too. They help to push the baby out. But if you're not having babies and you're done with that, or you're not interested in that, your muscles also are very important for sexual health. So those, and the pelvic floor itself is sort of like the pelvic girdle that supports all of your organs. So they support your bladder in place, and they support your sexual organs. So what happens when that becomes weak is that you can develop prolapse of your bladder, and also the weakness can cause sexual dysfunction. It can also cause incontinence. And we don't often think of incontinence as a sexual health problem. But if you have incontinence, you will know that it is a sexual health problem. Why? Because who wants to have sex if they have incontinence, right? It's embarrassing. It could be smelly. There's reasons why, people wouldn't want to have sex if they had incontinence. So the pelvic floor is really, super important in order to maintain, health in general, because it supports your organs, and then also to support sexual health.
Right, exactly. Like I said, I knew that. And to me, I will add something else there. I understand it to be, it helps with your sexual response, because if you've got, strong muscles, then you get better pleasure, that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. So if you have, a vaginal opening that is wider than, say, the penis that's being introduced, you can squeeze those muscles and get more sensation. So absolutely, it can help with, with sensation as well. And,
Right.
Decrease in sensation and dryness is one of those symptoms as women get older that become issues in sexual health. And that can really cause problems with your sexual life if you, are experiencing those issues.
Right. Exactly. So that's basically what I just said. Because I think that I've got good pelvic tone, then I didn't have those other issues that you have when you go through menopause. So that's awesome. All right. So we're starting strong. So one of the tags that you have in your work is orgasm equality for women. And I love it. So, but before I get on to that, because that's what our topic is today, you also said something that for the men that are listening, I think we need to include them in this conversation. But I'm also curious because erectile dysfunction is a big problem for men. I think personally that the majority of men start having problems with this maybe as soon as they get to their 40s or something, which is why Viagra is, just took off. And you say that you do something that's called, what is it? You've got something that helps men with that. All right, acoustic wave. Can you tell us what that is and what that does?
Actually, absolutely. So acoustic wave therapy is a treatment that helps erectile dysfunction. It also helps decrease vaginal sensitivity and dryness, which is the female equivalent of erectile dysfunction. And you're absolutely right that erectile dysfunction is extremely common. 20% of men in their 20s start to experience some form of erectile dysfunction. And it goes up.
You're going all the way to 20s. My goodness. Wow.
Yes. And it goes up 10% per decade. So 30% in their 30s, 40% in their 40s. And at 50% of men have some form of erectile dysfunction. So it is extremely common. And so what acoustic wave therapy does for the tissue, either man or woman, is it brings blood flow to the area and it breaks up any blockages that you have in your blood vessels. So, over time, if you eat any kind of meat and have any kind of cholesterol in your diet, oftentimes what happens is that you start to develop blockages or plaque in your blood vessels. And, that can eventually lead to heart disease. So oftentimes I will say if a man has erectile dysfunction and they come see me and they don't have a cardiologist, I'll recommend that they see a cardiologist because sometimes erectile dysfunction is a precursor to heart disease. So it breaks up the blockages, the treatment, and it allows those blockages to flow out of the body safely. And over time, getting multiple treatments, it also creates more capillary formation. So capillaries are the teeny tiny little blood vessels that go to every cell in your body. And so it's very important to have many capillaries. So this treatment actually creates more capillaries over time. So it allows the tissue to become healthier and more rejuvenated. And that's for men and women.
And for women, right. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wow. So after they take this treatment, does it go away or it's just a little better? Does the problem go away or they just a little better?
So it can be completely reversed depending on how many blockages you have. So I often say the sooner you get treatment, the better results you will have. Because if you get to the point where it's severe erectile dysfunction or severe vaginal dryness, that means that there's a lot more blockages there than there should be, right? So it's going to take more time to really break all of that up. So I have people that go from, being on Cialis. For instance, I have a client now that has been on Cialis for an entire year. He was taking it daily preventatively. And he is no longer taking Cialis. He can now have sex with his, girlfriend for an extended period of time, because another precursor to erectile dysfunction or one of the symptoms is premature ejaculation. So a lot of times men will have premature ejaculation, not realizing that that is a symptom of erectile dysfunction. So he's able to, my patient is able to now have sex with his girlfriend for an extended period of time, is no longer using any kind of medication to help him. And he's gotten so far 5 treatments. And for him, I recommend 10.
Shout out to Claritin for supporting this episode and providing us with samples. This allergy season have been tough for me. The pollen number was the highest it's been in over 3 years. My nose was stuffed up, then it was running. I had the awful nasal drip in my throat and the sneezing. I was miserable. Luckily for those of us who live with symptoms of allergies, we can live Claritin Clear with Claritin D. Designed for serious allergy sufferers, Claritin D has 2 powerful ingredients in just 1 pill that relieve your allergy symptoms and decongest your nose so you can breathe better. If you are ready to live life as if you don't have allergies, it's time to live Claritin Clear. Fast and powerful relief is just a quick trip away. Ask for Claritin D at your local pharmacy counter. You don't even need a prescription. Go to Claritin.com right now for a discount so you can live Claritin Clear. Remember, use as directed for relief of nasal congestion, runny nose, sneezing, and itchy nose due to allergies. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Usually, improvements don't come overnight, but once in a while, one small fix can catapult you to the next level. If your commerce platform is holding your business back, you owe it to yourself to see what Shopify can do for you. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS system or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you're covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
So he's only halfway through his treatment protocol and he's already able to function.
I love that. I love that. Boy, I love when I decide to include things and it blows me away because that's very powerful treatment, and that's life-saving treatment. Not only allows you to have quality of life, but it also helps you as far as, your heart disease and capillaries and all that. I was learning about capillaries the other day as well. I was watching something on Netflix and they were talking about the human body, and I learned about that too. All right. So awesome. So, hey, ladies, if you're listening, now you understand what's going on with your man. And men, if you're listening, seek out this treatment because it's going to, allow you to get off medication. So that's beautiful. All right. So one of the questions I have here is you talk about something that's called big clit energy. What the hell is that?
So have you heard of big dick energy is my question.
No.
You haven't. Okay, so that term has been flying around the internet and hip hop for so many years now. But women need an equivalent of that. So the female equivalent of big dick energy is big clit energy. And what that means is that when you have a healthy sex life and you are confident in your sexuality, that confidence translates to all areas of your life, whether it be the boardroom, whether it be the podcast that you're, recording, whether it be the meeting that you're throwing or you're in charge of, whatever that may be for you. Everybody's going to have different needs in their life, but having that confidence to get up, to walk across the room confidently and to be confident in yourself generally. And so that's what big clit energy is. And that's what big dick energy is. And so I like to focus on the big clit energy, right? Because I like to focus on women's health and really helping women to develop that big clit energy. Because when you are confident in your sexuality, it will take you far in all areas of your life.
Well, I agree. Because yes. And the other thing that I've learned over the years, let's say that you've got a healthy sex life and you got this big clit energy, men can actually feel it. Your pheromones or whatever you put out, they can tap into that. But before we go there, so somebody that's got big dick energy is probably because they have a big dick. So if those women have a big clit, I didn't know that there's sizes of different clits. I mean, what's and I meant, oh, it's just the energy you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's not technically like the size of the dick, right? Or the clit necessarily. It's the energy or the confidence that you have in your sexuality. So if you have a great sex life and you know how to please your partner and you are and you're confident in pleasing yourself, that's just going to translate to more confidence in general. But it's interesting that you say that because I like to talk about the clit and the size of the clit, right? They're the clitoris. The clitoris is a system that is almost exactly the same size as a penis. However, it's more internal. So for a man, their genitals are on the outside, but for women, only a part of the clitoris is exposed on the outside and the rest of the clitoris is actually internal. But we as women actually have more nerve endings, pleasure nerve endings than men do. So I always like to point that out.
Imagine that. I can imagine that. We don't even need to go there, but I know why. Okay, all right. So that's good. All right. So our topic today is orgasm equality. So you're saying that, the women are not having as many orgasms as men. And, that is stating the obvious. But so what's going on there? Why is it traditionally, and I'm going to say it because it keeps replaying in my head when you were talking about, orgasm and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen The Color Purple. Ever seen?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. It's my favorite movie of all time. I just saw the second one and it was just as good as the first one. I loved them both.
Me too. It was really good. But I don't even know if they had this particular scene in the second one. But in the first scene, Sophia, I don't remember her name now, but Whoopi Goldberg, because I remember her name is Celia, I guess, in the movie, was telling Sugar that she just lay there and let him do his thing. And she says, what do you mean let him do his thing? It's like if he's going to the bathroom on you. She says, well, yeah. So women is traditionally just allowed a man to have pleasure and they don't really have pleasure. And that started to change. That's what was in the olden days. Like you just let the man do his thing and you don't get any pleasure from it. But you're right. The modern woman wants pleasure. So why is it that the men have more pleasure than the women? What's going on with our internal system?
Well, I love that example that you bring up. And if you remember, she was being sexually abused by her quote unquote father. And we don't actually realize that it's her biological father until the very end of the story, right? But throughout the whole movie, you think it's her biological father. So it's even more horrifying that she's being sexually abused. And so, when you're being sexually abused, you're not trying to enjoy it, right? So,
right.
So there is a reason why, women don't have as many orgasms as men. And it's because what we see in the media is always, almost always, penetrative sex. And penetrative sex is how men orgasm. But for women, only 3 to 5% of women can orgasm for penetration alone. It's a very small amount. So if that's you out there and you can orgasm for penetration alone, good for you. You're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones, right? But most women can't. And I know that I count myself in that category. I need external clitoral stimulation in order to orgasm. And so do 95% of women. So if you're only focusing on penetration, right, then you're oftentimes not going to get there. And oftentimes what we see in the media, in movies, in shows, is always penetration. Very little emphasis is placed on external clitoral stimulation. And so, a lot of times people gain their knowledge of sex from the movies and from shows and even from, books. And not a lot of times are women being stimulated externally. So this is what we need. And women have to understand their bodies so that they can close that orgasm gap for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I knew about the penetration thing. You give the statistics a different way. So maybe it's the same, but I knew that there was like 70% of women that do not orgasm with penetrative sex. You said 3 out of 5. Is that the same percentage?
So it depends on, the where you're getting your statistics from, but oftentimes it'll say 70%, but that 30%, right, that can't orgasm with penetration alone, they may be in the category where they can orgasm from penetration and external stimulation, and that's included in that 30%, if that makes sense. So when you're just focused on penetration by itself without external clitoral stimulation at the same time, 3 to 5% of women are the only ones that can do that, if that makes sense.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. That is big. So how are we educating the men? What's going on here? Are we educating the men? We're telling the women that they need to do something. How do we fix this?
That's what my podcast is all about, right? It's educating everybody because we all need education, right? Women need to understand what helps them to orgasm. A lot of times, women will masturbate and they can orgasm just fine when they're masturbating, but they'll, have sex with somebody and will never orgasm. And that's because they're not bringing the skills that they know help them to orgasm on their own into the bedroom. A lot of times women will be ashamed or shy of bringing their toys that help them when they're masturbating into the bedroom. And sometimes men are even resistant to allowing women to have those toys in the bedroom because they're intimidated for some reason by the toys, which really is ridiculous because, the toys can be their best friend. If they want to pleasure their partner, that is a great way to help them to do so.
Yeah, I understand that because if you're bringing toys to orgasm, the men feels like, what am I here for? Right? It hits their manhood because they want to do that. And I understand that's why a lot of men resist that. But I mean, the progressive relationships bring the toys in. It just depends on the mindset, And I'm glad that you have, like you said, destigmatizing the conversation about sex so that, we can learn because yes, it is very, very important to have orgasm. It prolongs your life. Yes, sexual health is very important. Okay, so toys is one of the ways that women can orgasm. And the men, you're saying that can do more stimulation. Is that the answer for what the man can do?
Absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with the man holding a toy for you, right? But, for a man, it takes a man about 5 to 7 minutes to reach climax in penetrative sex. And for a woman, it can take 25 minutes or more. So, right there's a huge discrepancy in time to orgasm. So a woman really needs to become prepared for penetration. And it takes 20 to 25 minutes to prepare the vulva and the vagina for stimulation. And a lot of times we aren't doing that, right? We're not properly stimulating that area. And just as a man needs an erection to have penetration, can't put it in without an erection, right? A woman has to get engorged in order to be prepared. And engorging is the same thing as having an erection. The tissue fills with blood and it becomes ready for penetration. So it's very important to get your partner ready for penetration by either, stimulating them with your hand. Massage is always a wonderful thing. Also, oral sex is another way to stimulate, or using toys. So there's lots of ways to stimulate a woman. And, I always say too, that the genitals are not the only erogenous zones on your body, right? Your entire body is wired for pleasure. So creating that excitement and that anticipation is so important to getting a woman ready. So, from the tips of, the top of our head to the tips of our toes, our bodies are wired for pleasure. And so stimulating the whole body is a way to help your partner to get more ready for sex.
Yeah. You mentioned massaging, so that's pretty good. And of course, the mindset too, right? Because everything is all in the mind. So the mind, that's pretty good. So, all right. So that's one of the ways that we can close the orgasm gap. I like the fact that you mentioned how long it takes. You're saying things that I know. But it's great to bring it to the forefront of people that don't really know. You talked about premature ejaculation. That means that the man can ejaculate in like minutes, a couple of minutes, right? So even 5 minutes is a bit long, but you're right. A woman needs to be touched. She needs to, go slowly. She needs all the other things but something just popped into my head. So if the 97% of women, or maybe let's even go back to my number, 70%, that can't orgasm with penetration, so they're orgasming with the touching, or how does that work?
So, we don't always have to orgasm at the same time, right? I mean, that is a lovely event, but it's not often that it happens. So, if that's always the goal and the man reaches climax first, then a lot of times sex just ends right there, and the man rolls over and takes a nap and you're just like, what the hell just happened? Right. So there's no reason why, if the man climaxes first, that sex and sexual activity can't continue after that to pleasure your partner at that point, so that's really key. And you mentioned the brain, right? And the mindset. So your brain is actually the largest sexual organ in your body, right? And your mind does have to be in the right headspace in order to orgasm. If you have 20 things on your to-do list and suddenly your partner wants to get it on, you may not be able to get there because you have too many things on your mind. So you really have to set aside time to really enjoy sexual pleasure. And so I like to encourage people, that are really busy and oftentimes, don't make enough time for that, to really set aside time in order to get into the right headspace, create the right environment, create the right ambiance, put that music on, dim the lighting, do whatever it means, whatever you need to make yourself feel like you're in the mood, because mindset is super, super important.
Yes, that's that. Yeah, that's what I thought. You have to be in the mindset of pleasure, of relaxation, of love. We didn't talk about that, but feeling for the person that you're having sex with, whether it's love or attraction or whatever. that needs to be in the mix too. And that helps women. I don't know about men, but it helps women. Right. And so that's a good mindset. All right. So is there any other thing that you wanted to talk about that, that we missed as far as sexual health and pleasure?
Oh, we can talk about so many different things. I don't know which direction you want to go. But, just ask me any question. I'm happy to answer them for you.
Okay. All right. So, what's kinks? Are you talking about fetishes? Is that like kinky fetishes, or does kink mean something else?
So it's interesting because there's a little bit of a difference between a fetish and a kink. A fetish is actually an object, typically, that somebody has to have with them during sexual activity in order to reach climax. They can't orgasm without their fetish. So whatever that may be for that person, and there are many different types of fetishes. A kink is just thinking outside of the box in terms of sexuality. So, doing things that are quote unquote out of the norm. And, what's normal to one may be kinking to another, So really, there's no specific definition for kink. And there's a website in Florida, and I can't think of the name of it right now. Oh, it's called FetLife, and it's for people that like fetishes and kinks. And one of the kinks that are listed on FetLife is cuddling. Cuddling is considered a kink. I've never considered cuddling a kink, but
that's a necessity.
but exactly, that's what I think too. But that's considered, a kink to some people, So it really will depend. But it's interesting because 45% of Americans consider themselves kinky. Isn't that interesting? So it's super, super common for people to practice different kinks, whether they consider themselves part of the BDSM world, or they just, like a booty slap here and there,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was just going over the things that you talk about. Now, how does lingerie, is lingerie for the woman or lingerie for the man? Normally, I'm interesting that you added that as sexual health. So that's why I was just going to talk about what does that do?
So I do one of my podcast episodes on lingerie because I think lingerie is really so much fun, and it gives the woman a certain sense of confidence and feeling sexy. So you may not need lingerie. Maybe you feel the sexiest when you're, head to toe naked, or whatever that may be for you, right? Maybe it's the right kind of music. Maybe it's you having a drink or two to kind of just let loose, whatever that may be for the woman. But lingerie can create a sense of visual stimulation for the man. And so absolutely, lingerie is for both the woman and the man. The wearer enjoys feeling sexy, creating the space, just like you create the space with the music, the lighting, the scent, the sheets, all of the things that you're doing to create the space. You can also, get dressed up and feel beautiful and sexy. And so lingerie is for the woman in that way. And then for the man, it's visually stimulating, and men are very visual. So it's, helps in that regard too. Every man is different though. And, sometimes you'll have lingerie on and it'll only stay on for about 30 seconds, right? And that's okay. That's okay too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to get. I was going to get to you. You stole it right out of me because you're right. So this is an interesting one to pick for a minute because yes, the woman would, buy these expensive lingerie and put it on and whatever. And when the man sees it, yeah, he gets in the mood, right? Well, that's what she wants anyway, for him to get in the mood. But I'm thinking that the men that I've dealt with, including my husband, would just, if you walk out naked, that would, money for that. So is that true? I mean, we think that a little bit of clothes is sexier than naked. That's what, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Is naked sexier, or sexy clothes that just had a little bit peeping out or something?
I think it's so individual, really. And it's interesting that you bring up nudity because I did a podcast about this as well, where we talk about nudity as not inherently being a sexual thing, right? So, we come into this world naked and, being naked is just part of life. When you don't have clothes on, you're naked. That doesn't mean you want to have sex at that moment. It just means that you're changing clothes or whatever that may be, right? So, being naked is not inherently a sexual thing. However, it can be if you want to be, in the mood, right? And so men do love visual stimulation and, women's bodies are beautiful. So why wouldn't they want to see their woman in the nude? But, sometimes wearing lingerie and creating a little layer to tease and to kind of, create that anticipation is also really nice as well. So, lingerie is for men and for women. And I think that some men prefer completely naked and some men love to see their, girl dressed up and looking sexy. So it really just is very individual.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome. That's true. When you put on lingerie, then the man knows that, hey, you're ready for sex. It's all in the mind, right? And if you get naked and go to bed, maybe they'll get that same message too. I don't know, but it's great. But it's all, like we said, the mindset and where you're at and communicating what you want, without saying anything, maybe in your actions or, putting on the jazz music or something, which is what my husband does when he puts on the jazz music or whatever, he's setting the mood, right? He's setting the tone. So it's all communicating. And, so that's great. So yes, we delved into, a lot of deep topics here today. So this was amazing. So tell our listeners now about your podcast. We talked about, some of the topics that you have on your podcast. Tell us your mission. Now, I met you at Podfest, and you were talking there about trying to bring a product to market for women. So if you want, you can touch on that too. So tell us about your work.
Absolutely. So my podcast goes hand in hand with my business. I like to talk about sexuality in general. And I also talk about a lot about sexual dysfunction because that is what I treat in my physical therapy practice. So, we do discuss a lot about sexual dysfunction as well. And yes, I have a product that is in the sexual health space. I actually just applied to a program that's sort of like, if you're familiar with Shark Tank. So it's sort of like getting mentors that can help you to sort of build that business. And so I just applied for a program and I'm hoping that I get accepted to really develop this product further because it needs to go to the FDA and that sort of thing. But it's in the sexual health space. And I think that, when it is on the shelves, it's going to change the way that we have sex, just as condoms have. Because, condoms have helped, us to be able to enjoy sex more safely. And this would do the same in a different way for, a different part of the sexual act. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not going to go into any more details because, I can't have all of you listening.
That's why I didn't mention what it is. I know what it is because I heard you pitch it, but I wasn't sure if it was ready on the market yet. And obviously you don't want to say because are you going to patent it?
Oh, yes. I already have a provisional patent and I'm working on getting a regular patent and moving forward with all of that. So yes, I will be doing all of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's brilliant and it's beautiful. So I'm glad that you are progressively going after that. And we're going to keep in touch. Let me know when it's...
Yes, we'll stay tuned for that in the near future, hopefully.
Okay. All right. So where can listeners connect with you? What's your website? Your social media handles.
So you can find me on pleaseme.online, and that is my website. And on there, you can find all of my social media links. So if you go to pleaseme.online, all of my links are there. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And so you can find all of the links if you go to pleaseme.online. There's also a great store, and I talk a lot about nutrition because nutrition is very helpful and important for health in general and sexual health as well. So I talk a lot about nutrition, and there's products on my website that you can look at. And so, yeah, there's lots of things. And then you can also join the Orgasm Revolution. And we haven't really talked about that yet, but we did talk a little bit about the orgasm gap. And the orgasm gap is, when men in heterosexual relationships are having 95% orgasms, but women are only having 56%. So there's a gap between, how many orgasms women are having as opposed to how many orgasms men are having. And so the Orgasm Revolution is a revolution that I started in February, and it's ongoing. And anybody can join the revolution by going to my website, pleaseme.online. And the very first item that you see in my store is a t-shirt that says Orgasm Equality on it. And you would get one of those t-shirts, and you would take a picture of yourself and post it online and just explain what the orgasm gap is, and why it's important for you to let other people know what it is, so that we can each close our orgasm gap one person at a time through education and, empowering women.
I love it. Yes, we're marching for equal orgasms.
Yes, yes, yes. I have a little sign. I should have brought it today.
We're marching. Please me, not just yourself. Yeah, I know. One of the things I want to circle back to, I'm not quite sure how practical that is. You're saying that once the man orgasms, because he orgasms, 90% of the time before the woman, then he should continue trying to make her orgasm. So isn't it easier to prolong his orgasm? Because when a man orgasm, it's like done. He wants to go to sleep. He wants to roll over. He's like, it's like the blinders come on him, right? And I know that tantric sex is prolonging the orgasm. Don't you think that that's a better way to do it than having him stay in when he's done?
I mean, everybody's, experience is going to be different, right? But there's many men that love to please their partners, that will please their partner first before they have an orgasm. So that's one way to do it, where the woman is having their orgasm first before then that man has one, right?
That makes sense.
Right. And if for some reason the man gets there first, what I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be over then. Why is it that we're all okay with just rolling over and saying, okay, that was it, didn't get there, but okay. No, we can demand more, and we can communicate with our partners and say, hey, I would like to have an orgasm also. So can you help me get there? And whatever that may be for you, it may be having your partner watch you while you masturbate. They might really like that visual stimulation. It might be having them hold a toy in a certain spot, or use a toy on you in a certain way that will help you to get there. And you know what? That's more visual stimulation for the man. So that may be very enjoyable for them. So I'm not saying be selfish and make them, make you orgasm. I mean, all of this is part of the sexual act, right? And it shouldn't just end when one person orgasms.
Yes. Yeah, I've not been experienced with the man, whatever, finishing and then staying around, which is basically why I asked that. But you're right. They are supposed to, touch and please and do all those different things because they know that it takes you longer, kind of thing. So, right. If you have someone that's that selfish, then they're definitely willing to do that.
And a lot of people don't know that, right? A lot of men don't know that. And a lot of women don't know that. which is why women are not getting their needs met, which is why it's so important to have these conversations, because women need to know this information. It's education. It's sex education, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, we don't do a very good job of that, so we need to seek that information on our own.
Yes. Well, I was just about to say that. Boy, we were connected. I was just about to say this is sex education. And then you said the word. Yes, sex education. When I was going to school, there was, we had a topic called sex education, but it only focused on how you can have babies.
Or avoid them.
Right, exactly. Well, that's basically what they're trying to tell you, how women have babies, have sex. And I was watching a movie the other day, and it was really funny. What the guy say? He put on the board, do not have sex, you will die. It was a hilarious movie, but that's basically, so he was on the board. Yeah, don't have sex, you will die. That's part of sexual education.
Wow. So that would really have inhibited him from wanting to ever do that, right? And so many taboos are around sex, right? And so a lot of times we grow up with so many different fears and so many taboos and so much shame placed on the sexual act, when really this is how we all got here, right? Everybody has sex. So why are we so ashamed to talk about it? And there's so many reasons why that is the case.
Yes.
Huh?
Cultural history. I don't know. Women are not supposed to enjoy it. There's a whole bunch of things that
there's so many reasons, right?
Right.
But they don't have to be there. Like, yes, there is the patriarchy. Yes, there is, how women are perceived in movies. And yes, we're being only shown penetration all the time. So yes, there's so many different reasons why women are having less orgasms, and there's so much shame around it, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can dismantle that shame if you want to for yourself. And so that's a lot of what I talk about on the podcast as well, is trying to dismantle that shame that, your parents put on you, your church put on you, your society put on you, your friends put on you,
teachers, put on
your
you.
Teachers,
Yes.
Everybody. Exactly. Because sex is a normal part of life, and it is an enjoyable part of life. And if you really, give your sexual health attention, it will reward you over and over again for the rest of your life.
It makes you look younger. Check my
Yes, I know. I would never have guessed your age, ever.
Hey, that's right. That's a lie. Listen, Eve, I forgot to mention that your name is so, your parents birthed you for this work. The name Eve, it's amazing.
Thank you.
So this was a great conversation on sexual education. We touched on a lot of things today, and I hope that you guys are walking away with not feeling bad about yourself. If you're not getting there, it's not your fault. Eve give us the statistic that only 3 to 5% of women can just orgasm with penetrative sex alone. I thought there was like 30%. So 3% is a very, very small number. So don't feel badly about it. This conversation was, the topic was orgasm equality, right? We know the men still have orgasms, women too. And trust me, it helps with anti-aging, it helps with de-stressing, it helps with a lot of things. And
sleep, insomnia,
mental health, a whole bunch of things are tied up in, your sexual health. So, hey, if the man's not doing it for you, then, we talked about, you're single, doing it by yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah, don't be ashamed. And I'm glad that we ended with that. Don't be ashamed. It's no longer the 50s or the 60s when, women were just things that men went on, like going to the toilet, like they said in the Color Purple movie. They just climb on and do their thing, and you didn't need to have pleasure. You were just a receptacle. Things have changed now, so that's why I felt it was important to bring Eve on the show and to talk on this topic, because I as well think that destigmatizing in the conversation about sex and sexual health is very important, right? So, all right. So, Eve, thank you very much for this very stimulating, tantalizing, very important conversation. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Transforming Your Mind. Today we're transforming your mind on sexual dysfunction and sexual health. So, Eve, thanks again. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, I just want to, thank you for having me today. This has been a really wonderful conversation, and I hope that your listeners can glean a little bit of education from it, and, and to really feel like there is no shame and there's really no reason why you can't talk to your partner about the things that you want.
Yes, exactly. Yes, talk to them. See if they're willing. All right. Well, all right, guys. Well, listen, thanks again for tuning in. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we'd love for you to rate and maybe leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to comment. Men and women, let's get in this conversation. Leave a comment. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, namaste.